Good morning. How are you, sir?
Great, yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Good.
So, Eric, what is your full name and what do you really do?
My name is Erik Blazynski, and I facilitate change and solve problems. I mean, that's essentially in my job what I end up doing. My technical background, probably about 15 years ago, I used to write a little bit of code, wasn't very good at it, but I understood a lot about systems and Unix systems and things like that. In a previous life, I used to manage Unix systems, so I have a good understanding of back-end systems and things like that.
Yeah, so the people listening right now are change agents like you are, and they're looking to get started with AI. And of course, there's a lot of confusing information about how to start, what to start with, where to go, and it's almost like they need a guide, right? So I understand that you kind of did this yourself. You found an entry point, you got started, you did some things. Well, tell us that story. What's the story of your early start with the AI stuff?
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about OpenClaw, and I thought, well, that's pretty interesting. How can I create efficiencies in my business using OpenClaw and getting these different automations uh, going in my own, personal world. Um, and I guess prior to that, I talked to my developers. I've got a team of 5 developers. I've talked to those developers about how do we use AI tools to become more productive. Yeah, this project that we've been working on was kind of lingering along, and we needed some kind of impetus to move us forward. So I talked to the developers, and some of them were, you know, maybe trying to use these tools, but I thought I would install OpenClaw and see what I could do myself. They're telling me, well, these tools aren't great. Maybe it'll fix up some of my code for me, but it's not going to write it for me. And I thought I would give it a shot. So I installed OpenClaw. And again, I have that background. I just took an old computer that I had laying around and
Hmm.
installed it. And then I was interacting with this thing using Telegram. So, one night I was going to the gym and I was sitting in my driveway. I thought, you know what? I really need a marketing plan for our new product. And I typed into the Telegram, which was connected to OpenClaw, and I asked it, create a marketing plan. Here's the details of the company. And before I even got to the gym, which is like maybe a 7-minute drive, it had developed an entire marketing plan. And then it started asking me questions. Do you want me to develop call scripts? Do you want me to develop call sheets? And I just said yes. And every time it asked me a question, I said yes. And I had to create a Notion account. And it
What's that? What's a Notion account?
Notion is it's like a notes account. It stores, it can store all of your notes. You're taking notes about things. It has a little database built into it, so you can put databases in there and tables. And anytime you need to store data about something, you can just use Notion to do that.
Okay. All right.
Um,
So how about tell us three things people should definitely do right now if they want to get started with agents. And
okay, well, the first thing would be download the Claude app for your desktop, especially if you're not a developer, use something called an IDE. You don't need to download these things. Uh, I don't think I would use the web the web interface that Claude offers. I've found that the desktop application, and I'm using Windows. The Windows desktop application is a very, very good
Hmm.
tool. You can chat with it to just ask it simple questions. You have the co-work functionality, which can you can schedule things and do stuff through Cowork. And then you have Claude Code built in there as well. And it's like $20 a month. And I would definitely, the first thing I would do is download that Claude Code. The second thing that you want to do is have a very clear vision of what your outcome is, especially if you're developing, any kind of software product. You need to have you need to have the end in mind. What does this product look like? And then you're going to have Claude ask you questions. So a good prompt is, I'm looking to develop software that does this, and be very specific about what you want. What do you need to know so that we can build this successful product? And then it ask you questions. And then when it's done asking questions, it'll develop a plan. It's very smart about these things. It'll develop a plan. It'll display the plan to you. And then when it's done with the plan, you can have it execute the plan. Um, and then I guess along those lines, if you have a large project, so this would probably be the third thing. If you have a large project that you're working on, have it break it down into very specific user stories. So what I had Claude do so there's two things that I'm doing here. I've got this company that makes the elevator compliance software, and I'm doing some things on my own. The things on my own, I don't need a ton of user stories, but for my team, I need user stories for them to sink their teeth into. So what I'm doing is just having Claude write the user stories, and it creates a user story with acceptance criteria built into it. And then I went one step further and said, Claude, build prompts in here so that my team can prompt you to build this thing out. And it builds the prompt right into the user story. And then they pick it up, they build the prompt, and they go from there.
Wow. So the user story is so prefab that it even has the instructions to Claude about what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. All right. So what are the three or four big ideas about things to avoid and be allergic to as they get started here?
Well, the original open claw that I installed, like, I don't even use it anymore. So, like, don't start there. I mean, not anymore. You can use the Claude app. So I would be allergic to starting that over from scratch. Um, at this
OpenClaw,
point,
avoid OpenClaw.
avoid OpenClaw. Yeah, you
That's
don't need
number
it.
one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, like, stay away from Grok. Grok, from a productivity standpoint, it's not a helpful tool. I mean, it's useful for like current events. You have questions about a current event or something like
Hmm.
that, or something that's
Products.
going on.
Yeah.
Then, we can use Grok, but for a development tool from a thinking standpoint, there's just so many better tools.
So
What else would I get away from? I would stay away from trying to host my own model. That's a thing that I was going to do. I started down that path, and like, there's just no need. I mean, if I had some super secret stuff that I didn't want, you know, Grok to, or not Grok, but I didn't want Anthropic to have access to or be privy to. Um, I might want to do it then, but I don't have any of that. And even still, it's not learning. The models, as I understand it, are not learning during inference, during the time when you are asking it things. These tools learn in different ways. So I wouldn't even be worried about that. So, like, running your own model, I don't think I would do it. Just pay the whatever they get, $20 a month or 150 a month, whatever they charge there at Anthropic. Just use
all
that.
right. All right. So pay the $20 for Claude Code.
Hmm.
Do not host your own model locally or a manager of developers. Like what should they be paying attention to? Where should they be investing their time right now? Is it everything you just said? Claude Code?
Well, I think the place that where I would spend my time, and where I got the best payback was, encouraging my developers to use the tools. Um, and then, getting all of my developers together so that they can, discuss the tools together and understand like best practices for using these things. We implemented Claude for all of my developers, and they didn't all start using it, and you can tell immediately who is being productive and who is not being productive. I mean, the output for someone who's using Claude is like 2x. It's massive. It's a huge jump, a huge leap. So it's really obvious when someone's not using it. And you've got to understand what those hangups are. Are they hung up on AI specifically? I don't want to use this stuff because it's going to take my job away. Well,
Yeah.
that's not a very good way to think, and they've got
Yeah.
to be encouraged to think differently. And like this is a tool. Like I don't see this as taking people's jobs away. There's always a next thing to do. There's never like I don't know that we've never said, okay, we're done with our software right now.
Right.
That's never happened. I've had this company 10 years, 15 years almost. And we've never said, okay, we're done. We're not doing any more development anymore. So that's not a thing. It's just there's always that next thing to do. So don't worry about the thing taking your job. Just go out there and be massively productive.
All right,
Um,
cool. This is
um,
cool. I guess my next thing is we're going to do a little micro plug for this small app that you built
ooh,
called PokerGoon. I understand it's
mhm.
got a website and it does some processing in the background. Why don't you just give us a few minutes on that, and that'll kind of pull it all together for people and discuss the tools you used as you go along and explain this thing, okay?
Okay, can you share my screen?
I can see it now, yeah.
Great. Okay. So what this tool does, so this all came about. I'd thought about this thing and I never built it, to manage a online poker tournament. Um, I just never built it. I just thought it would take too long. I don't know if anyone would use it, but I started using Claude for different things and I realized, well, I could just have Claude build the entire thing. So like this was my prompt and I put this in. I created this prompt on a Saturday morning while I was cleaning my garage, roughly a month ago. And then I just went out to my garage and I started, continued cleaning my garage. And then I kept walking back in. I'd walk back in. It would ask me different questions. It would develop a plan. You see here, it developed the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just built the thing. And then from there, all I did is just keep giving it prompts. Like you could see my prompts here. The scraping freezes. Oh no, whoops. So it had problems, and then there were some like complex problems here because there's no text on these screens. These screens are at least on PokerStars, it's like a rasterized image. Everything just becomes a rasterized image, so you can't scrape the text off of there. You need an OCR system to do it. So this was creating a lot of issues. But Claude figured out exactly how to do all this stuff, and it figured it all out. And then
Mm.
it would tell me, like, give me a screenshot, and I would send it a screenshot and say, oh, okay, yeah, I know what's going on now, and it goes in and fixes it. And then you could see here, like, it was off a little bit, and I told it it's off, and it just went in and fixed the stuff.
Mm.
Um, so this is the PokerGoon app. Here, let me log in here. So it created all the marketing pieces of this thing.
The whole
Uh,
website he created, the front end and the back end?
the front end, the back end, the whole thing. So when you log in here, like here's a poker tournament. I tested this for the first time last week, and it was great because things were going wrong while I was doing this,
Mm-hmm.
and I would just type into Claude, "Oh, fix this," and then it would fix it. I would deploy it, and then it would work. So it
Mm.
was like real time fixing the issues in this thing so that I could get it to work for this tournament. And as you can see, like I have like little Venmo links I can click to pay people out. If someone didn't pay, I can click and it'll send them a Venmo or a PayPal request to pay the money that they owe. Uh, it sends out emails. Like I can send out. I had create these little templates so I can send out these emails to the players, both before the tournament starts and also after the tournament is finished. And
Well,
so yeah, Claude built the entire thing. Um, I didn't I didn't give it any I didn't give it any guidance on look and feel. I just said, make it look good or whatever I said. Nothing too crazy.
hmm.
The logo, I had the logo made using Canva, um, like which is a like a I don't know, I guess marketing
Yeah,
marketing
it's a
tool, I
marketing
guess.
site. Yeah, for doing graphics.
Yeah, yeah. So I had Canva create the logo. So this thing is completely built using AI tools.
And you wrote zero code.
I wrote zero code. I don't even know how to write code. This is in Python and React, and I don't know anything about either of those programming languages.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, so
Yeah.
you built this thing from scratch. You still had to set up the URL and everything though, right?
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
manually, some basic manual stuff.
Yeah, but if I didn't, I would just say, hey Claude, I don't know how to do this. Tell me how to do it. And it would
Anyone could
be
do
easy.
this? Anyone can build a SaaS app like this?
Anybody can do it. And like programming is done in English at this point.
English is a programming language?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good word. That's a good phrase. English is a programming language.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this also makes you platform agnostic now because you're not there's no vendor lock-in, right? You're saying things in English.
Yeah.
That's
And
pretty crazy.
and let's say you make a mistake, I screwed something up here. Well, you know what? Who cares? It can be fixed in 2 seconds. Like it makes mistakes, okay. If I did something wrong, whatever, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be as perfect in your planning, to be honest.
Mm.
Because you
Mm, you can
screw
be
some.
incremental, um, iterative, right?
Mhm.
Sum up, and I'm going to ask you a question. The question is, if there's one thing you want people to know about your talk that's coming up on the monthly meeting for Agile Boston, what is it? What's the thing you're gonna deliver? What's the main nugget of value you're gonna deliver when we do the wider talk?
There's two things really. One is anyone can use AI. You know, it's not like some crazy difficult thing to do. Anyone can use these tools. And the other thing would be just don't be afraid of this stuff. Dive in feet first and just go in and start doing stuff. The tolerance for mistakes here is is tremendous. Like you can
Mm.
make as many mistakes as you want, and it can just get fixed immediately. So those would be my takeaways: is don't be afraid, and anybody can do it.